Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
And today I am hanging out with Pakstau, the former mayor of the City of Johannesburg. Thank you for coming to studio. Former
Thank you
mayor,
very much.
Deputy Minister. What else?
Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you so much for making time. You're a golfer, eh? Actually.
A struggling golfer, but yeah.
What's your handicap?
Index 14.2 right now.
That's not bad.
So.
No, it's not bad. I played in Bryanston yesterday and I played off 12 and I was unhappy about it because I don't know how I got to 12 because at some point my index was like 16.
It usually happens when you have a good game.
Yeah.
That your
I
next
hate
game,
having
the
good
index
games because then it takes me lower and I'm playing with people that are so good and now I'm on the back foot. How often do you play?
Well, I try to play at least once a week on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's often enough.
Yeah, that's often enough.
Okay, that's wonderful. Do you have a home course?
I'm at Royal Johannesburg in Kensington.
Royal.
But I don't always spend time there.
All of you politicians are like there at Royal. I mean, I know a few that are at Royal AM. Okay, that's interesting. I should take you on a golf game sometime. Maybe
No
9
problem.
holes. Someone with an index. You said 14.
14, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can handle that. So, we want to get to know you. I said when we were having a conversation about this hanging out features, a lot of people really don't know. Some people think you're an introvert. Do you consider yourself such?
I think so. I generally keep to myself. I generally am a very private person.
Yeah.
So even when we discussed coming to the show, I kind of said, but
Yeah.
I don't do me. I don't talk about me. I kind of prefer to talk about the work that I do as opposed to me. So it's a bit uncomfortable to be an introvert, I think.
Right.
Because in the nature of work that I do, you're supposed to be out there. You're supposed to be talking a lot. And I always say, talking is an occupational hazard.
Well, I do it for 3 hours every day. Spare a thought for me. So did you grow up as an introvert? Like, were you always like quiet and to yourself?
Yeah. Always fairly quiet. Pretty much keep to myself. Keep a fairly close-knit group of friends. It's just a character thing.
Yeah.
Not that I mind people, not that I mind spending time with people, but it's just one of those things that you grow up with and it becomes inherent in you.
Yeah. I
worry that it's getting a bit worse.
As you grow older?
As I grow older, I'm kind of receding into more quieter spaces.
I think anyone does that when they grow older, no? I mean, I'm still fairly young, but as I grow older in my youngness, if there's such a word, I'm realizing that I love my personal space. Like, I'm also receding more to me, myself. I don't like going out as much as I used to when I was in my middle 20s.
Yeah. So, as I said, I think sometimes it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you meet friends and they say, but you don't pitch up anymore. You're not there.
Yes.
We can't feel you or see you. Where are you?
Yeah.
And you kind of say, well, I can't be doing the things I did 10 years ago.
Yeah. So how did you then? I mean, were you 14 when you started with your activism? Who brought you into that space?
Well, it was an era in which COSAS was active in our schools.
Yeah.
Were a number of colleagues who were very active in COSAS. Amongst others at our school, which was Pace College, we had people like Finki Mohase, Lulam Simang, Lebelo Maloka. Those were the sort of people that were active at school. For those who are from the school, they would know those are the people that kind of recruited a lot of us into COSAS. And that's how I joined the organization and became active as a student activist. It was not an easy space because it was a private school and activism was not kind of normal. You couldn't sit there and say, well, they are feeding us Bantu education, something is wrong, because actually that was not the case. But the consciousness grew. and consciousness increases and extends to the community. Get to join the Soweto Youth Congress, to be involved in community activism. So yeah, it evolved from there.
Do you feel like that era required of most of the people, if not everyone, to really be conscientized? I mean, I can even imagine when you grow up in an era where there's Bantu education, where the apartheid regime is in full force. When you are a victim of that ruthless regime, you don't have almost like any other choice, but what does your conscience say? You feel the responsibility to do something and be involved in some way.
I think many people were conscientized at the time. People were conscious of the environment. Reality, though, is that like in any environment, not everybody takes it upon themselves to become active. But I found that a lot of people were very supportive of the organization, the activities, the struggles that were being engaged in. And people were aware of the situation and the environment and the need to do something about it. But you always had a fairly smaller group of people that assumed direct activism and mobilization and joining organizations and taking responsibility for the environment in which you are.
But also growing up in Orlando West, I suppose, I mean, that was almost like the epicenter of like youth activism. There was a lot going on in Soweto at the time.
There was, and I mean, Orlando West was one of those places where historically you had your senior leaders of the ANC, including the PAC, and the likes of Matiba, Walter Sisulu, Zef Mutupeng. And so you had people in the environment to which you could look at and say, these are the icons in our community. They represent what we are about as a people and what should be done. And it kind of inspired a lot of us.
Yeah. It's 15 minutes after 10 o'clock. I'm going to play one of your favorite songs and then we'll continue these conversations. You can, if you want to call, chat to Pakstau, 011-883-0702. Maybe you've worked with him at some point. By the way, I met a lady who has worked with you last year in August, who now works for the World Bank, and she now lives in Paris. And she spoke so highly of you. And I remember our French ambassador, South African ambassador to France, well, the former, because now there's a new one that's going to start soon. I remember him saying that even the mayor there speaks so highly of you and the passion you have about local government. And I remember the lady said one of the things she enjoyed about working with you was that you didn't allow the politics to get involved in the work. So you would want to handle that and almost separate them as the kind of accounting officers from that. And I want you to talk to us about just managing the two, because when you are mayor of a city like Johannesburg that handles such a big budget, there are politics that can be at play, but you don't want that to distract you and the officials from the actual work on the ground. But we'll get into it after this. Do you have a specific song you want us to start with? You've got Bula by Sello Halane, huh? You've got Bob Marley, you've got Moses Molekwa. Which one is your favorite? Molelekwa. Molekwara.
And I'll tell you the story after this, but don't worry, be happy.
Oh, okay. Can't wait to hear the story.
Put a smile on your
Such a simple but
Don't bring
powerful song, eh? What's your story behind this? Why is it your favorite?
Well, because it's actually the first album I bought for my father.
Oh, yeah?
It's a happy song. He loved the song, and I kind of took it upon myself to buy him the album, and we would listen to it together a lot of times. So there's a sentimental attachment to the song.
Yeah.
I should say, I mean, I haven't bought many albums in my life. You know, I'm not big into music. I always think it skipped a generation between my father and my son because they were into music, but I can't even sing.
Yeah, but when you drive long distance, like, do you get someone you're driving with to decide on the music?
Preferably, yeah. they decide on the music, and I enjoy music. I'm not saying I don't enjoy music. I'm not particularly biased to a particular genre. I enjoy music. If I like a song, I like it. I enjoy it. I play it. So I always used to say, for me, between kwaito and classic, everything works. For as long as I enjoy the song.
Yeah. What's your reflection on your time as mayor in the city of Johannesburg? I was telling you about someone I met who felt you allowed them to just do the job. And the context is I was asking these ladies who have now moved to Paris, who are so intelligent, and they've been poached by these big global companies. And I said to them, we need you back at home. And they said, no, the system, the political system has really ruined a lot of professionals' experiences because some members of the executives allow the politics to really interfere with the day-to-day work, and they don't want to be caught up in that. And that's when she gave an example of the only politician she's worked for who was passionate about the work and allowed them to do the work was you. What was your reflection of your time, and how did you manage to also just separate the politics from the work the city had to do?
Well,
not even possible.
I should thank them for the compliment. Interestingly, we had a discussion with, I think I know who you're talking about, Yondela.
Yes. What was she doing in your office?
No, she was the executive director for the planning department.
Yes.
Development planning.
Yeah.
So
she's at the World Bank now.
She's
doing
Bank,
so well.
I think she's now moved to Belgium from Paris. It was an interesting time to be in the city. I think it's been the most fulfilling of all responsibilities I've had so far. Primarily because partly, I think I literally grew up in the city, or grew, should I say, because I joined the City of Johannesburg as a councillor in, I was 25. So I literally participated in the life of the city and got to the point of leading the city. But there are many important lessons I learned from my predecessor, who in many ways I consider a mentor.
That's Amos
Masondo. And one of the things he taught us is the principle of good governance, the ability to assume your responsibility, but delineate responsibilities between the political office bearers and the administration. Without abdicating, you take responsibility for the leadership of the organization, the vision, the direction, the issues that are critical that need to be addressed, setting the priorities. That's the political duty. But the execution of that is that of the administration. You then continue to exercise oversight on the administration and the work that they do. So you kind of have to delineate responsibility and allow people to do their job and hold them accountable for their job. And you have to do that dispassionately. You have to do it objectively. You have to ensure that people are focused on the task. And I think that with many of the colleagues that we worked with at the time, both in the executive, the political leadership, and in the administration, there was a fair understanding of what the different levels of responsibility are. One of our colleagues, he was member of the Mayoral Committee for Housing, used to say, so Mr. Mayor, you say, my job is not to touch. My job is to tell people where to touch, but not to touch. So the responsibility for the political office bearers is the what. But as to the who is somebody else's responsibility. We require human settlements to be built in these areas. This is the budget allocated. These are the standards that we expect. And the administration is allowed to go in and implement those. And that, I think, is a relationship that evolves on the basis of, I think, a culture that develops in the organization and an understanding of the principles of good governance.
Here's a WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Clement, and mind you, Foxtown. Listen, man, you did so much for cycling in the city. Loved your work, and you're a fellow cyclist. I give you lots of thanks. Hayden Kensington.
Oh, you did a lot for a lot of for cyclists. Hey, actually, someone else had sent a message saying, I remember he created those bicycle lanes in Auckland Park and in Sandton, but now it looks like they're white. They're a white elephant. What went into that at the time when you were thinking about the creation of the cycling routes?
Well, it wasn't just cycling. We took a view that we need to look at mobility in its broadest sense in the city and to create an environment in which people can access the city through different means and different modes of transportation. So in many ways, people look at the cycling lanes also because I suppose as a cyclist, people look at me and say, but there's a bias to cycling. But we created pedestrian lanes, we created cycling lanes, we created dedicated bus lanes. So it was an integrated way of approaching mobility in the city in a comprehensive way. And in many ways, I mean, for those who are into managing urban systems, you would know that, in fact, cycling is considered the most efficient mode of transportation. If you take speed, if you take contribution to health, the amount of road it uses, and a whole range of other considerations, it's considered one of the most effective means of mobility.
Yeah.
But I always try and bring back people to the reality that don't just look at the cycling lane. Yes, they're important, but there are also pedestrian lanes that were created alongside those. And it's about creating access to your city through all means of transportation.
Yeah. And when you, I mean, safety is such a big aspect now, right? Especially in the city of Johannesburg. And I'm just wondering, when you look back now, where do you think that safety aspect is? Because a lot of people will tell you it's not safe now in the city of Johannesburg. So it's all good and well to create that integrated system. But if we're not creating a safe city, we're really going to struggle. We're going to struggle with the programs we're trying to build. A lot of people just don't feel safe in the inner city.
And we adopted a Safer Cities program and policy as the City of Johannesburg at the time. And it looked at a comprehensive view of safety in the city through, for example, environmental design, how you design your city, how you create public lighting in the correct places. So it was about, one, creating an environment of safety through urban design. But it was also about introducing technologies. We introduced CCTV cameras in the inner city, which was a focal point. We built partnerships with the private sector that had built their own CCTV infrastructure and created networks that would create a platform for collaboration and cooperation around safety issues so that we can prevent incidents of safety. But it remains a critical issue in our country. We need to address the issue of safety in a comprehensive way. I'm quite happy with the way in which the province of Gauteng is approaching the issue in terms of identifying innovative ways of dealing with safety. How do you prevent environments where people are vulnerable in the townships through the wardens, creating a core of people that would create an environment of safety and security. It's also about the deployment of technology and thinking creatively around solutions. Can we work towards a cashless system so that people have less cash on them and therefore less of a propensity for criminals to get to them? So we have to continue to think about solutions to address safety and deploy resources accordingly. And metropolitan municipalities are assuming greater responsibility for safety, converting traffic police into metro police officers, and for them assuming greater responsibility for safety is also an important aspect.
It's 10:30. Andy wants to know, Clement, please can you ask Mr. Daude if he attended St. Joseph's boarding school?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When was that? Which period?
Primary school.
Primary school.
Primary school,
Is this before PACE?
Before PACE, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, that's what Andy wanted to know there. And then Tsepo wants to know, please can you ask him, what would he say is his biggest success as the former mayor of Johannesburg?
Well, I think in many ways we had a set of priorities in the City of Johannesburg in the growth and development strategy. We drove an agenda of transformation, but one of the things we understood all too well is that you require resources to be able to do the job. We positioned the City of Johannesburg as an institution that has the financial muscle to drive transformation and that has the institutional capability to implement programs. So at some point, we were spending on infrastructure per capita the highest amount of money of all of subnational government in the country. So that includes all the provinces, all the municipalities. Per capita, the City of Johannesburg was spending the most in infrastructure. And that enabled us to drive programs such as the Corridors of Freedom, initiatives around mobility in the city, initiatives such as Josie at Work, and other programs of transformation. So I kind of measured the ability to have a municipality that has the muscle, institutional and financial muscle, to execute its responsibilities as one of the most critical tasks. And of course, linked to that would be the programs that are implemented in the city. And as I said, we drove initiatives around spatial transformation. We drove initiatives around inner city renewal. We had programs that led to areas of success there. The Bramfontein Redevelopment Initiative, Main Street Redevelopment Initiatives, Newtown, Constitution Hill, and other programs that the city actively pursued to ensure the renewal of the inner city of Johannesburg. But it's also about investing strategically in infrastructure and yielding the results of your investments. I always used to say to colleagues in the city, when we invest in infrastructure, there are three things, or at least three focus areas. It is about addressing backlogs for communities that historically do not have access to services, water, electricity, sanitation, roads, etc. But it is also about recapitalizing aging infrastructure. So you have to invest in ensuring that your infrastructure has the resilience to get you into the future. But it's also about investing in growing the economy. It's about strategic investments that we did in areas such as Sandton, Rosebank, that ensures that they have the requisite bulk infrastructure to have the growth that we experienced over time. So it's about a conscious decision to invest so that you're able to grow the economy and you're conscious about it. I said at a meeting recently, the reality though of being in a city, the reality of being a mayor is that it's not, if you like, a sexy job. Because the things that you do are not always visible. Because the pipes are underground. People don't always relate to the fact that for water, for sanitation, you need to create the infrastructure for those services to be there because they are underground. You don't always relate to them. Electricity, in reality, for cities, it's about wires. So it's not the kind of responsibility that you take and think that you have the opportunity to go and cut ribbons all over the show if you investing strategically in infrastructure and ensuring that your city functions.
I'm going to ask you to put on your headphones, please. Nkume, you're calling from Pretoria East. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm good, man. Go ahead.
Good. Clement, I worked with Paxtau when he was still MEC of Economic Development in Gauteng. So we didn't really work with him. I was from the Eastern Cape, the Automotive Industry Development Center in the Eastern Cape. Although we had our own MEC that side, Paxtau, at the time as the MEC of Economic Development in Gauteng, opened his doors for us to come and see him, seek advice. And there were times where we wanted to collaborate between Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and KZN as the automotive provinces. He also assisted in us drafting the white paper of EV policy for the government of South Africa. So I just wanted to say that for that, he has really assisted South Africa a lot. I've since moved away from that, and Paxtau has also since moved away from the MEC position after the Gauteng ANC conference. But yeah, I'm sure you would recall me because we had several meetings online, physically, and on the emails as well. Yeah, I just wanted to say what a great person you have there.
All right, Kume, thank you so much for calling us. Kume, reflecting on when you were still Economic Development MEC.
Yes,
Right.
thank you very much. And I do remember him very well.
Kume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we were actually driving the automotive sector as a strategic sector. Gauteng is home to 3 of the 6 automotive manufacturing firms in the country. And we needed to think about how we expand the sector, how we grow the sector, but also how you adapt to new technologies. The reality is that electric vehicles, Kume talked about EVs, electric vehicles, and new energy vehicles are a critical part of what needs to be done. If you think about it, the European Union has imposed or is imposing tariffs on vehicles that use internal combustion engines.
And we're running out of time, eh?
We're running out of
given us a
time.
deadline.
The deadline is 2030.
Yeah.
2030, 2035 are the critical deadlines in terms of carbon border adjustment mechanisms, which are the taxes being imposed by the European Union and the UK. And we initiated a process of collaborating amongst the 3 provinces that are active in the sector, KZN, Eastern Cape, and Gauteng, so that we're able to collaborate around the creation of an electric vehicle sector. It's also about looking at alternative energies such as green hydrogen, particularly for larger vehicles, and we're actively involved in that sector. Whilst the Northern Cape is the lead province in terms of green hydrogen, but for purposes of industrialization, we position Gauteng as a lead initiative and program around creating green hydrogen for alternative energy sources and to become part of the energy mix in Gauteng. So we had great collaboration, I think, with the provinces and pursuing industrialization.
Do you think we've got the necessary infrastructure and capacity, though? I mean, yes, it's still early, but I mean, I've over the last 2 years or so, I've had the opportunity of driving, several electric vehicles. In fact, I was driving one over the last 2 weeks, and I've realized that it's very difficult, for instance, to find infrastructure easily, like charging ports. For instance, there was a time I was stuck in Limpopo. I went on a weekend away with friends with an electric vehicle. There was load shedding the whole weekend. I couldn't charge the car, and there was no station in Polokwane, which was the closest city I had from the bushes where I was. So I was literally stuck because there's load shedding, but also there is no infrastructure that's close by in that province. So I feel like we don't have the necessary infrastructure and the capacity. Are we moving fast? Do we have a policy that's getting us to move faster?
The Gauteng provincial government adopted a strategy around charging stations and electric vehicles and committed to convert part of its own fleet to electric vehicles so that you're able to kickstart the process of electric vehicles taking a firmer route in the province. It is an important part of how you're going to transition. You need to be able to have the charging points, whether it's at the office or whether it's actually charging points that are at stations. You need that sort of infrastructure. Or malls. Some of the malls now have charging stations, but we don't have enough to be able to get the industry to function, and that's something that we certainly need to look at. The reality,
and
though,
energy
is
reliability, because I'm not going to always have time to go to the mall to charge or go to a specific charging. I want to be home and overnight put it on the plug so that it charges overnight. But if I've got power cuts, it's not going to work for us in this country unless we also get energy reliability sorted.
And I think energy reliability is receiving the necessary attention. I think all of us agree that it's been a huge challenge, but we're witnessing significant improvements. But and the reality with electric vehicles is that it's not like you're going to a filling station to fill in your car.
No.
It takes a bit of time
Takes
to
a
get
while.
it charged. So it's also a change in lifestyle about at what point do I charge my car? How do I get to travel long distances? Because at a particular point, I need to recharge. And we've had to think about those transitions. I think, for example, that hybrid vehicles are likely to take a greater proportion of the transition in South Africa and in Africa before we fully convert to electric vehicles?
Yeah, I do. My experience with them has just been amazing. Also, there was research that was done that suggested that driving electric cars is good for your mental health, apparently. So there you have it. So that's another added benefit, I suppose, an incentive, if you will, if you wanted a reason to go get one. Tammy, you're calling us from Pimville. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Morning, Comrade
Sure.
Parks. It's a difficult call. I think your producer there was trying to manage that. We speak much more about Parks, the person, as opposed to the work, and I'm struggling. Parks, you know me, and you share a common brother, Ushuman. He speaks so high about you, but I have my own personal experiences about the work you do. You know. When you were MMC, I think finance, we made inputs through the integrated development lens, and we called for building a youth center in Pimville. And I can tell you now, it stands tall there as a product of a direct interaction of the work you do. So you're not just a policy person who articulates it and very committed to it, but you can show practical signs of such achievement. I want to check something, Parks. You know, the Gauteng Township Economic Development Act, you spearheaded quite well in Gauteng. Ultimately, it's law now. What's your take? Do you think we are really moving towards achieving the intended purposes, just bringing some sense of dignity to local entrepreneurs in township, as it were, as envisioned in that act? But overall, good person, all the best going forward.
Thanks, Tammy, in Pimville.
Thank you very much, Tammy. I think that the initiatives around the Gauteng Economic Development Act are still being pursued. Actively, we're witnessing financing instruments for township-based enterprises. We're seeing initiatives around the retail sector in townships. There's the last mile initiative in terms of drop-off of goods and services to people and ensuring that township-based enterprises are able to participate in that regard. So there are a number of initiatives that are still being pursued through the Gauteng Township Economic Development Initiatives and the Act. And my observation, of course, is that the province is still actively driving the agenda of township economic transformation and development.
Yeah, Eric in Mapetla. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement.
And
also to my man Pakstau.
Sure.
Yes, I would like to highlight the work that Pax has done whilst he was still a mayor. He's the person who introduced the first pioneers in ward committees. Usually, ward committees were nominated by the mayor, but now after Pakstau, the community was given an opportunity to elect their own ward committee members, which was really a step in the right direction. And during his term also, he introduced this drawback safety strategy, which was a comprehensive safety strategy, especially in all the regions of the city. But when he left, really everything crumbled, but he has done a great job. Even in his State of the City address, he was, boastful of the things that the threatened. He was wearing a suit which was tailored here in Soweto. I think you still remember, Parks, the suit that you were wearing in Braamfontein during your state address. You were proud of the township talent.
Yeah, Eric in Mapetla. Thank you for your call. Chifiwa, I'll come to you after this break.
Good morning, Clement and Mr. Tau. I just want to say Mr. Tau's leadership was even visible at high school. He was 2 standards or so below me at pace. He was brilliant. He was always among the top students because our quarterly results were put on the notice board. So he was one of those outstanding students. It's no surprises his leadership qualities. Thanks, Dima.
Oh, that's fascinating. All right. So you're a smarty pants in school. You're those that are always in the top 10. Eh?
Well, I actually was. And the principal was very unhappy that I joined COSAS, of course, because it kind of moved me in a slightly different
Did it
direction.
distract you, though, in terms of your studies?
Well, of course it did. I mean, you get to be detained, arrested, you spend time in cells, it distracts you. You're on the run from the police, it distracts you. So it kind of impacted, but I certainly look back at it and say it had to be done.
Yeah. Chifiwa in Johannesburg, good morning.
Hi, Clement. You're speaking to Chifiwa Manyathela here. I think Parks knows me as Malinda Manyathela. I first met him about 16 years ago when I was working for the Department of Economic Development in the City of Johannesburg. He was the MNC. Yeah, you've got an intellectual giant there. One of the sharpest minds that I've ever encountered in my life. I mean, a person who remains calm under extreme difficult situations. So he never shouts, he never screams, nothing of that sort. I mean, we've got the best mind there in the studio, and I think the country needs to be grateful to have people like this. Thank you very much, Clement.
Thanks for the call, Chifiwa. Kind words there for Park Stow. How did you feel in 2016 when you had to be out? I mean, Herman Mashaba was coming in at the time, right? Did you feel you had done enough work? I mean, was it a surprise for you guys that, oh my goodness, is this it? We're no longer running Johannesburg.
Well, the research said to us that we're not doing well. And it wasn't matching with the work that we had done. Because if you look at it and you evaluate the work that we had done, we were convinced that should be able to get us across the line. But this is a democracy. It produces and yields results, and you kind of get shocked. You get shocked that, well, we've lost the city. How do we deal with it? And some of the decisions we had to make were, well, firstly, everybody stays put. Nobody's leaving. Yeah. So all of us will sit in the opposition benches and we will do our work from the opposition benches. We will try and defend some of the programs we initiated.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always easy.
Do you, having been the Deputy Minister of COGTA, do you find that's where you enjoy more than what you did as the Mayor of Johannesburg?
Being the Mayor of Johannesburg has been the most complex yet most fulfilling task I've ever done. So, yeah, for me that was a huge privilege in life to be able to do that work and to be able to pursue the things that we're pursuing in the city.
Yeah. MJ wants to know if you're related to Jimmy Tao.
Both of us answer the question. No, we're not related.
You're not related?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am Simpiwe Arnold Peter from Soweto, Ezola. I've never worked for the City of Johannesburg, but at the time, Mr. Mpho Pakstau was part of being a mayor in the City of Johannesburg. He made us feel as if we were part of what was happening in the City of Johannesburg, because he would hold public hearings to discuss what's to be done through the Corridors of Freedom program. And there was a lot of activity that was happening in the City of Johannesburg by that time. There was job reliefs. Even if it wasn't a permanent job, there were job reliefs for people, and there were programs that were helping people in some financial way.
Did you pay these people to call in and say these lovely things about you? Huh? How much did you pay them?
I'm actually shocked because psychologically I prepared myself for a balanced discussion. But thank you very much to all the callers for the compliments.
Yeah. So you wanted to?
No, I think I find that firstly people relate to me in relation to being the Mayor of Johannesburg.
Yeah.
I've been MEC, I've been deputy minister, but people.
You're a former mayor. That's what they think.
Former mayor of Johannesburg.
Yeah.
And I think the experiences were fulfilling for me, and it reassures one when people say we actually recognize the work that you've done.
Yeah. Clement, please can you ask him if he ever had a proper handover between him and Mashaba in 2016? Was there a handover?
I offered.
And it was declined.
I offered. And I guess both sides were dealing with complexity of what had transpired. Yeah. But I did say, I didn't say to him, but I said to the colleagues in the DA that I'd worked with over time to say, look, I am ready to give you the necessary handover. The reports were there, but there are things that I think one needs to share.
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that hold the city together?
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, I think that there are decisions they could have made differently if we did have a proper handover. And I think it's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
We have a duty, notwithstanding whichever party comes to office, we have a duty to the city, to the province, to the country, to be able to share all the information necessary. In fact, many countries have institutionalized it. You institutionalize a handover, whether to your own party member, to a different party member, but it enables that level of continuity.
Yeah, and it's about the people
exactly.
At the end of the day. Pakstau, thank you so much for making time. We'll bring you back in studio to come talk about the mess in our metros and the work that's being done at Cooperative. Today we just wanted to get to know you better. I appreciate you making time for us.
Thank you, much appreciated.